Fat makes you fat. I heard that a butter in your coffee helps you burn fat. Brah, I drink hella fat burner in order to burn more fat on my body, you know? So like, do we eat fat or like, is this on our body fat? Even as a dietitian, fat is so confusing. Welcome to the video. My name is Trevor Lomax. In this video, we're going to learn about what fat is, about the different types of fat, what foods contain certain types of fat, discuss if it's important to us, and learn what types of fats that we need to be focusing on in our diets so that we can avoid critical diseases like heart disease, cancers, and diabetes. So first, let's get on the same page. What is fat? Fat comes in many forms, and it's one of the reasons that fat is the most confusing macronutrient. Also, we call fat in food the same word that we call fat on our body. And that's actually for good reason because they're essentially the same thing. Although that can be really confusing when we talk about nutrition and also things like burning fat in exercise. All right, quick disclaimer, we're about to get a little sciencey, so put on your thinking caps and don't worry about memorizing the stuff because you don't need to know it to be successful with your health, but it will help you understand things later in the video. Most of the fats we consume are triglycerides, which means that it has a glycerol backbone with 3 fatty acids attached. The structure of those fatty acids are what determine the fat's actual function in your body. The 4 main types of fats that we're going to talk about today include trans fats, saturated fats, monounsaturated fats, and polyunsaturated fats. So if there's one type of fat that we should be avoiding completely, it is trans fats. If you're looking at a food label, you can see them noted right here. Trans fats were once used to keep foods shelf stable for a longer period of time. But since then, they've been made illegal because they've found to increase the risk of heart disease. Trans fats are still found in small amounts in foods that are hydrogenated. Hydrogenation is just a process of creating more saturated fats, which helps a product stay shelf stable for longer. During this process, some of those fats turn into trans fats, although it's not up to the level that are illegal in foods. It is important to note that if a food has less than 0.5 grams per serving, then they are legally allowed to put 0 grams of trans fats on the label. Some products like peanut butters or tortillas may have hydrogenated oils in them. You'll see them listed as partially hydrogenated oils most of the time. There are forms of these foods that you can buy that don't have the hydrogenated oils in them if you religiously eat some of these foods, but a little bit here and there won't kill you. But if you love peanut butter as much as I do, then you probably want to find one without the hydrogenated oils. The second type of fat doesn't necessarily need to be avoided completely, but it is important to limit in your diet. This is saturated fat. Saturated fats are found in many meats, dairy products, and some oils like coconut oil or palm oil. You can also see them noted on food labels right here. Saturated fats also contribute to heart disease, and this is why they should be limited to less than 10% of your daily total calorie intake. So this is a good reason to choose lean meats and low-fat dairy. All right, let's take a break from talking about the negative Nancy fats and talk about one that is good for you: monounsaturated. Honestly, I think of monounsaturated fat as like the boring fat because it's not super overly complicated, but it is good for you. Monounsaturated fats may not be shown on the label because they're not required. These fats lower the risk of heart disease and stroke. So eat these as you see fit, as long as it fits into your total daily calorie needs. The fourth type of fat can be a little bit complicated, but we're going to keep it a little surface level for this video. These are polyunsaturated fats. The 2 main fats in this category that we'll talk about are omega-3 and omega-6. These types of fats drive the inflammatory process. Just so we're on the same page, inflammation is a good thing. It's a healing process that our body goes through, usually in response to an injury. The problem is when we don't exercise, have chronic stress, and have a really poor diet, inflammation gets out of control and can contribute to some diseases like some cancers, heart disease, or even diabetes. Like I said, the way these fats work is very complex, but let's just keep it really simple. Just focus on getting more omega-3s in your diet. There are 3 types of omega-3s, but 2 of them are really difficult to get in our diet and are very important for not only inflammation, but brain health and health in general. These fats are called DHA and EPA and typically come from fatty fish such as salmon, mackerel, trout, and sardines, and in lesser amounts from more popular fish like tuna. Getting in about 2 to 3 servings of these type of fish in your weekly diet would do astronomical things for your health. There are also omega-3s that we get from plants, and this form is called ALA. ALA can actually be transformed into DHA and EPA in your body, but it's at a really low rate, so you can't depend on getting all your DHA and EPA that your body needs just from consuming plant-type foods. Just a side note, if you are vegan or vegetarian and don't consume fish, getting EPA and DHA is really only going to happen from taking something like algal oil. But I digress. Foods that provide us these plant sources of omega-3s include some nuts, seeds, and some oils. A really easy way to look up more sources of these omega-3s is by looking up the NIH fact sheet for omega-3s. It's important to note that any food that contains fat may have multiple different types of fat in one single source. So just because a food has some saturated fat doesn't mean all the fat in it is something that needs to be avoided. And looking at the other side of the spectrum, just because something has a ton of omega-3s or other healthy fats doesn't mean it won't have something like some saturated fat in it. It's also important to realize that a lot of the foods I mentioned in this video so far are used to make other foods. For example, mayonnaise was traditionally made using eggs, but these days is mostly used using some kind of oil, such as soybean oil or canola oil. Determining the amount of fat that we need per day is typically based off of your total daily calorie needs. Usually we aim for 20 to 35% of your total daily calorie needs in calories of fat. That range can be rather large, so I would consider your current goal and your food preferences when determining where you're going to fall within that range. Personally, and with a lot of my clients, we usually aim for 25% because it helps us be consistent on choosing leaner proteins like meats and dairy in our diets. But it still leaves enough room for things we enjoy, like having salad dressing on our salads and having a chocolate chip cookie every once in a while. There is another important thing about fats that you probably don't know about, and this is the smoke point. Each oil has a smoke point where the fats inside of the oil get heated so hot that they oxidize, and these can become detrimental to our own health. Knowing the smoke point of the oils you use is very important for choosing the right oils for the right things. For example, canola oil is my go-to when it comes to cooking because it has a very high smoke point as well as a really good composition of fats for my health. On the other hand, you should never cook with extra virgin olive oil because the smoke point is really low, and most of the time when you're cooking, you are cooking above that temperature. Instead, use extra virgin olive oil mixed with balsamic vinegar and make it a balsamic vinaigrette for a salad. Look, fats are really complicated, and stressing over which fats you're eating doesn't help your health. So let's make this easy on you. Eat a variety of fruits and vegetables, choose lean proteins and dairies, while eating fatty fish and cooking with oils meant for cooking and topping with oils meant for topping. And on top of it all, if you cook your own food at home, you're gonna be way better off than the fats and oils that they use at fast food restaurants and many restaurants in general. If you follow these recommendations, you're gonna be absolutely fine without having to micromanage your fat intake. Please smash that like button and subscribe for more videos like this. On this channel, we tackle complicated nutrition topics and break them down to make them easy for you to understand so that you can take confident control in your health. Next, we'll take a deep dive into another nutrition concept. All you gotta do is click right here. Stay tuned.